The NFL draft continues to get closer and closer, and a position of interest for all NFL teams is the running backs position. There are a lot of running backs in this class, and a lot of good ones, in my opinion. And I think this year is going to be really interesting to see who goes when. And I'm going to talk about the running backs. A lot of good combines, a lot of good 40 times, and just a lot of impressive work from the drills. And there's been a lot of debate over who's RB1. It's not a clear cut year. We don't have guys that are going to be high first rounders, but we have a lot of guys from round 2 to round 5 that are just going to fill it up. And some are going to turn into stars, some aren't. This class, in my opinion, reminds me of the 2017 NFL draft class. If you take away the top two first-round picks, Leonard Fournette at 4 and Christian McCaffrey at 8, you had guys all the way from pick 41 and undrafted that have been really good in this league. You got Dalvin Cook at pick 41, Joe Mixon at pick 48, Alvin Kamara at pick 67, Kareem Hunt at pick 86, James Conner at pick 105, Tree Cohen at pick 119, Marlon Mack at pick 143, Aaron Jones at pick 182, Chris Carson at pick 249, and Austin Eckler and Matt Breida, who were undrafted. All these running backs have been very good and earned names for themselves in the NFL so far. It's only been a couple years since 2017, but these guys have been really good. And this draft class reminds me of it. It is very deep. There's no standout guys, but just from reading those names, some of those, like Kamara has had probably a better career than Leonard Fournette. And it's not always about how high they're drafted. Guys like Saquon have struggled for high picks, where guys lower in the draft have done much better than they have. But there's a lot of good running backs in this class, and it's going to make for a really interesting draft. And a lot of teams are looking for running backs. A lot of good steals can be made in this draft, depending on who goes where. And we know with running backs, a position that's often considered to be replaceable, which I would agree and say that it is. It really depends more on your blocking scheme, your offensive line, and just your overall type of offense. Guys that are better at pass catchers, better receiving backs, they fit better in certain systems. We all know how good Alvin Kamara and Christian McCaffrey are at catching the football out of the backfield, where other guys are more of just run through people type of guys. But they definitely need blocking, and really the running backs, it's all about who can outrun everybody to turn a 30-yard gain into a 40-yard gain, or turn just little things like that make the difference. And so as we look at this running back class this year, just note that there's going to be a lot of good names in this class, and the rankings that we talk about and who's 1 and who's 10 aren't going to have that much weight, because these guys a lot of them are going to be good, and there's a lot of them, so some will be good, some will be bad, and a lot of them will be able to make names for themselves, so that's a very good thing for them. I wish the best of luck to all of them. As far as the top of the running back class goes, it's a big debate between Kenneth Walker from Michigan State, who is in the Heisman conversation, and Breece Hall from Iowa State. I personally think Breece Hall is the better running back and will be, just because how he's been better than Kenneth Walker for a couple seasons now. Although Kenneth Walker had a better statistical season this year, personally, I just think Breece Hall has been the better back. He was better for a couple of years, and I think he's a better pass catcher, which is something that I think more NFL teams value and will play to. The days of a running back only running the ball is definitely almost obsolete at this point. We see a lot of checkdowns, a lot of routes where the running back is the primary target, and for good reason, because of how dynamic these guys are. You want to get them into space and break some tackle. Kenneth Walker had a really good season for Michigan State, but I just think Breece Hall is better just from watching him play and watching him dominate for the past couple seasons. He's always been a name that you talk about, and it's just coming from Iowa State, being a guy that's always been circulating the names, is impressive, and he's been good for a while. And I at number 1, I'm having Breece Hall. His big board rank, according to PFF, is 66, where Kenneth Walker's is 55. But like I said in the other draft class, these guys aren't going to be going incredibly high in the draft. If you take a look at some mock drafts, you'll see these guys going pretty low in the draft, like Kenneth Walker at pick 55 to the Cardinals, and Breece Hall not too far along, pick 69 to the Jets. Another name that's up there in the top is Isaiah Spiller from Texas A&M. He's another good back. PFF has him a lot lower at 102, but he's had some really good games. He had a really good standout game against Alabama this year, and that upset that they were to pull. And I'm a fan of more Breece Hall, but I think Isaiah Spiller is really good as well. These guys are definitely good running backs and have the potential to be good. And like I said, it comes down to who they go, where they go, who drafts them, and what type of scheme they're in, what type of offensive line they got. A guy who hasn't been talked about as much, I think, is Kyron Williams. I liked him a lot coming out of Notre Dame. Thought he was really dominant in their big win against Clemson a year ago. But he sat out a little bit towards the end of the season, and he had some really good moments. He's a little slower, but he's one of the bigger backs, and he's been good he's a guy that's going to just get yards, and I think a lot of teams should look at him as well. If you're more in need of a power back, a team that wants that type of dominant runner. So for power back, I think Kyron Williams is your number one guy. Overall back, I'd say Breece Hall, but a lot of people say Kenneth Walker, and a lot of people say this guy right on your screen right here, Isaiah Spiller. And they have every right to say so. These guys are so close where there's no clear-cut number one. We could sit here and have this debate for hours on hours. It's going to be a really, really good class. If you look towards the end of this class, you'll see guys that you may not have heard of. Guys like James Cook, guys like Tyler Algier from BYU, and guys like Damon Peters from Florida. These are guys that have kind of flied under the radar at this point. Damon Pierce especially, just being a guy that didn't really get a lot of carries at Florida, but is just an incredible talent. And when he did get the ball, was very efficient with his carries. A guy like Tyler Algier from BYU, he's just a guy that people don't really hear of that much, just from BYU, smaller school, but he's put up some really good numbers over the years and has been a really good player and is a good physical talent. And as far as James Cook goes, he's the guy that everybody should watch just because he is Dalvin Cook's brother. And like we see this year with Stephon Diggs and Trayvon Diggs, it often turns out that the younger brother is better just from growing up and competing with their bigger brother. In his combine, he had similar numbers to Dalvin's, and we all know how good Dalvin Cook has been for the Vikings in the years, and he's been a really good back. And James Cook coming from Georgia, he's been good. Another couple of the names is Brian Robinson from Alabama. I like him a lot just because I thought he showed really good, just he was really smart. The way he played at Alabama with Bryce Young, that backfield, just I liked the way they worked, just check down, stuff like that, like broken plays. Another good one to watch is Pierre Jr. from South Dakota State. This is a guy that's really just a really good physical talent. It's tough to judge the level of competition he's played at South Dakota State, but he's really fast. Saw that in his combine number. I believe he ran a 4.39, fastest from the running backs. And there's a lot of running backs. Every year, some guys come out late, some guys go undrafted, turn out to be good. So it's tough to rank the running backs. But those are some names that you're going to watch out for watching the combine. Take a look at all the stats, all the numbers, and take a look at who you want your team to draft. As far as the Dolphins go, I'm a Dolphins fan. I want them to draft Brian Robinson. I don't want to waste a high pick on a running back. I think there's too good of talent. This class is too deep to waste a top 2-3 round pick on a running back. I think the range is 4 to 5, or as soon as if you're targeting a guy and that guy gets drafted, that's when I'd go ahead and take my running back. Just because if I get a running back in the 3rd round or a running back in the 5th round, I'm not going to be complaining. I think these guys are also close and also good, depending on, like I said, your team's blocking scheme, your team's run game, your team's offense, quarterback, all this stuff that varies from team to team is going to determine how good these runners are going to be. Like I said, we've seen so many running backs come and be good from late rounds. Guys like Matt Breida, Austin Eckler that are undrafted, guys like Alvin Kamara that are absolute superstars in the late second and 3rd rounds, guys like Aaron Jones all the way almost in the 200 draft picks. These are the type of guys that they get found every year, and there's no reason to select a high pick and a draft pick. These guys are all really good for great reasons. They all have great skills, and how are you going to argue over taking this guy because he ran a 4.39 and not that guy because he ran a 4.5? Talking about very few slim differences, very subtle time differences, and they're not sprinters, they're running backs. So without a ball, with the ball, their times would all vary. So I don't take too much of the combine, but this is what I think as far as running back rankings. Let me know what you guys think. Like I said, Breece Hall's RB1, and that's my opinion. So let me know what you guys think about it.